Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Liberty Ventures podcast. I'm Alexander McCobin, founder and CEO of Liberty Ventures, where we're building the ecosystem of values-aligned business leaders, investors, executives, and entrepreneurs who are committed to making the world a freer and more prosperous place and helping you scale your business in order to scale your impact. And today, I'm thrilled to be speaking with John Glushik from HG Ventures that's doing really amazing work helping inspiring entrepreneurs build new sustainable technology for the future for us. I'm going to give him a chance to share what that means and what he's been up to in a moment. But John, just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights and experience with the Liberty Ventures community today.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to talking.
So before we start diving into HG Ventures, let's go to your story, as you know I like to do. I'm really curious just what's led to who you are and what you're doing today.
Sure. So I guess with most people, the journey begins in your childhood, right? Mine was somewhat diverse. I had the privilege of being able to experience different cultures early on. I was born in Spain. I lived in England for a number of years, and then in the U.S. So I grew up appreciating diversity. I also grew up appreciating the opportunities to learn and explore. As I made my way through the early years, I got into engineering. I worked initially as an aeronautical engineer at General Electric, helping build some satellites, then at MIT's Draper Lab. And while I was at MIT, it's when I kind of got my first exposure to the entrepreneurial world and all the great things that are done there in innovation and building new businesses. And I realized then that I wanted a career path that maybe just would allow me to explore a little bit more. So I went to business school at Northwestern to force a career change in a way. I got into management consulting to continue learning a little bit more about business. And then I got into venture capital in 1999. And for those of you that remember that time, that was a time in which the industry was growing dramatically. So good timing, certainly, in terms of time to get in. But since 1999, so 25 years, I've been full-time investing in early-stage private companies. Initially, it was with a pure venture fund based in North Carolina. Then I had an opportunity to help start a university-based angel group at Duke University. And then in 2008, I helped start this corporate venture group I'm now with at the Heritage Group. And in 2019, I moved my family from North Carolina to Indiana to be a part of this because the opportunity we have here to support entrepreneurs is just extremely unique. And I'll get into more detail about that. But I was not a popular dad in 2019. I moved my family here. My kids, my wife, they were very happy in North Carolina, but it tells you something about the opportunity. The Heritage Group is a large family-owned business based in Indianapolis, 93 years old. I'm the fourth generation CEO, Amy Schumacher. And the business has always had a long-term vision around partnership, around sustainability, and about doing the right things, working with those partners. So in those early days, in partnership with Amy and her father, Fred Fazenfeld Jr., and my longtime partner, Kip Fry, we created what we believe is a unique corporate venture model that leverages all the advantages of pure venture and corporate venture without the traditional drawbacks you might see in those models. Our focus has always been, and this is going back now 6 years, is investing in companies where we can add value, right? It's a little bit different than the message you get from a lot of corporate venture investors. We want to invest in you if we can add value to your business. And that typically is through the incredible market access and understanding we have in the Heritage Group markets we've been in for decades, and also deep technical expertise in a number of different areas, typically in the material science space. We do all of this with the structure of a venture fund. So our process, our structure, the compartmentalization of what we do is very similar to what we've done in venture. And that's what I've taken from the early parts of my career and translated to what we do here. So we protect information. We're able to structure deals, lead deals, be a fiduciary, just like a venture fund would because of the way we're set up here. Very unique opportunity, and we've already seen, I think, great results in the early days in how we can add value to our portfolio.
So I want to really dive into HG Ventures, but back up for a moment because you've been in venture for 25 years now, as you said. That is a long time in the venture industry, and a lot of changes have happened over that. What has kept you in this so long, and what changes have you seen over that time frame?
Yeah, I've been in it for a while, and I've had the benefit of seeing it from a number of different angles, right? If you think about the different ways in which investors get involved with companies, from pure venture to angel investing to corporate venture, I've really seen it from a number of different angles, and I have friends in all camps, and I've learned certainly a tremendous amount from the people that I've grown up with here. I have the benefit of have seen many cycles, right? The industry goes up and down, just like any industry, and it's good experience to see that because it gives you a perspective as you things kind of see things kind of slow down and then speed up, and I've seen that happen multiple times.
I mean, even right when you said you started in '99, and then we had the 2001 internet bubble bursting. Like,
That's right. So
you start,
I got involved when the bubble was inflating, right? And then I experienced the bubble bursting. We in the fund I was with, we raised a fund in the first quarter of 2003, and I believe in the first quarter of 2003 we were the only venture fund that actually was raised. I mean that's how bad it was right after the bubble burst. So I got to see all those cycles, and as you might imagine, it gives you the right perspective when you're going through it, right? When things are not going well in terms of availability of capital or exit markets, you know that it's eventually going to come back, right? And there are things that you can do to prepare for that, to work your way through it. To maybe people will say weather the storm, and there's things you can do up front when you set up the deals that you do, the syndicates that you build, the teams you back, the plans, the financial plans you put together. You can prepare for that in a way, right? You don't know what's going to happen, but you can be ready for it. You can mitigate that risk. So seeing those cycles has been interesting, but every cycle's been different, right? The reason for every cycle has been different. So you're never going to be able to predict what that is. The thing that really has always kept me going is I just love supporting entrepreneurs. I have an admiration for them, in part because they do things that I couldn't do. Honestly, like I think you have to have the right mentality. You have to be able to be comfortable with risk and taking risks and putting a lot at risk. And I honestly don't have that, but I love supporting people that do because I feed off of that energy. I love seeing the changes that they're looking to make, that they do make meaningful changes in the world, right? And I want to contribute to that as much as I can, and I love living through them in a way. But at the same time, I have the luxury of having a portfolio of things, some of which each day are going well, some are not going well, and I love that because every day I go to work, I know there's going to be a balance and a challenge and an opportunity at every corner. But look, supporting entrepreneurs, I think at the end of the day is what I have a passion for.
I love that and couldn't agree more. This is what we were talking about before the interview started, that the fun of venture is the ability to work with incredible entrepreneurs who are creating hopefully society changing businesses, products and services, and even just ways of thinking. And we get to work with so many of them and find ways to support them.
Yeah, and I believe we need to support them in ways that work for them, right? And that's, I think, something that's really important to me is having a perspective, as an investor, to put yourself in their shoes, right? Appreciate what they're going through, and let that guide a lot about how you design your process and the way you interact with them.
So let's dig into that. How do you put yourself in their shoes, especially since you said just a moment ago you don't feel like you have the appetite for risk and the nature of the entrepreneurial journey like the entrepreneurs that you're supporting?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first step in actually putting yourself in someone else's shoes is just understanding what they're going through, right? And I've had the benefit of getting to know so many CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, just talking to them, not always just in a boardroom, right? But just casually kind of getting to know them, truly getting to know them as people and understanding what they're going through. So I have the benefit of many years of conversations and being able to relate to what they're feeling, what their issues are, what's meaningful to them, right? What's important to them, not just in what they're trying to do with their business, but what they're trying to get out of the relationships they have with their team, with their board members, with their investors. And I've picked up on that, and it all sinks into me because I have an empathy for that, and I want to make it easier for them. So once I understand, and now understand, I believe, what they're going through, it helps me put into practice, both myself and with my team, how we can be a good kind of customer for them, right? A good partner for our entrepreneurs. But that being said, they're all different, right? I mean, it's just one of the great things about this business is that every entrepreneur, every CEO is different, and you have to appreciate that. And the diversity, like I said before, is something that I think is great about the industry. You can't assume that there are certain characteristics about every CEO that you should look for, or every founder that you should look for. No, there's certain things that we like to see, that kind of ways in which we see people behave. But I love going into an interaction thinking to myself, okay, this is someone new. Let me appreciate what they're about. Let me appreciate what they're trying to do, what their vision is, and then we can see if we're a good fit.
So I love that. And it also, I would imagine, is different based on what type of investing you're doing. As you mentioned, you've done angel investing, traditional venture, corporate venture. And for any entrepreneurs listening who are just going out to do their first raise, they probably don't understand the difference between those. And I'd love it if you could actually share a little bit about what makes them different and what you've seen between each of those in working with entrepreneurs.
Sure. Very, very different models, but of course, I would hope that each of those groups of different types of investors have the same goal, which is the goal we've talked about: supporting entrepreneurs, right? Supporting their journey with not just capital, but also other things that can bring to the table, other pieces of value that they can bring to the table. Pure venture funds are by their nature purely financially oriented, right? So they serve LPs who have financial benchmarks they'd like you to hit. So there is a little bit of a purity in that, and an objective that is very clear to understand, right? Your job is to generate returns, and compete against others in the market that are also generating financial returns. We would hope that people in those markets are also trying to do some good things for the world, and I think they do, because they're supporting entrepreneurs that are doing good things for the world. But pure venture is I would say, certainly more purely financially motivated, but also the venture funds that I've been a part of and that I've seen, they've grown up learning how to put together a good process, right? Governance, structure of deals, diligence, right? That's something that you'll find in a venture fund. They tend to be a little more sophisticated when it comes to doing diligence and digging into the business. But again, you're going to see that a lot of their diligence is going to be centered around, okay, where are you now, and where can you be when we get liquid, right? Where's the exit? What are we driving towards from a financial return? And venture funds will invest at different stages. Some will get involved very early, some will get involved later. So there's kind of a range of venture funds with regard to stage, and then also with regard to geography and sector. So there's a wide variety. The angel groups tend to get involved a little earlier. And I really enjoyed working with angel investors for a number of years, because they tend to get involved very early. And a big part of it for them is experiential. They want to be a part of the journey. Many of the angel investors I worked with were entrepreneurs previously, and they wanted to be part of that. They wanted to be as involved as they could to help the entrepreneurs, especially in those early days, make some of those key decisions, right? So it's a little bit more than just making money, right? It's about the experience. And these are people typically that have enough money to have a little bit of fun with it, and have that feeling of, yeah, I truly am making a difference to this company beyond just the capital. Then we get into corporate venture, and corporate venture has a number of different flavors, but of course, most corporate venture is tied to a corporation. So you're always going to have that link, and some level of tension as to how that influences what you do. I think the good corporate investors, venture investors, are the ones who say, okay, entrepreneurs, let's make sure that our objectives and your objectives are lined up. If they're not, no problem. Let's part ways and wish each other luck. But if we can get involved, let's make sure that we align on strategic goals. And if that's the case, it could be extremely powerful. What I mentioned before, that our model combines what we believe is the best of both worlds without some of the drawbacks. Some of the things that we were careful to avoid as a corporate venture investor were a few things. One was this feeling amongst entrepreneurs that you're sharing your IP with this big company, right? Am I safe? Is my information safe, right? So the first thing you need to do is build trust. Keep all that information within a closed area, making sure they understand and trust that this isn't something that you're just going to go steal. And it's a legitimate concern, right? You might have as a small company. So build trust, have a process that they trust. Then you want to be able to have a consistent vision and strategy, right? There's many stories of corporate venture groups that will be in and out of the market, will change strategic vision, either change in leadership or change in direction of the company. And that at times can be a little bit of a roller coaster ride for entrepreneurs, right? So consistency is really, really important. And we knew we'd have that here because of the nature of our business. Long-term, company's been around a long time, has been doing things the right way for a long time, has a long-term vision as a large private company to be able to stick to a strategy. And then moving at a reasonable pace. Okay. Venture funds, like I said, typically have a tried and true process they go through. Corporate venture groups sometimes tend to take a little bit longer because they've got more boxes to check, more people to get involved. We wanted to make sure we streamline the process. So a lot of our process is designed to be able to move very quickly if we need to and work through it through the diligence and the structuring of deal, and then be able to lead a deal. Right? Many corporate venture groups aren't allowed to do that, or they can't do that structurally. If you can step up as a lead, the investors are going to value the relationship even more, right? Because now I can help you build a syndicate. I can help you put a round together. I can be a fiduciary for you and be on your board and be dedicated to helping you grow the business.
You pointed out that from the get-go in that explanation, which was really useful, that in corporate venture, entrepreneurs need to make sure, and the corporation needs to make sure that their interests are aligned with each other. And I think this brings up a basic question of why would companies like the Heritage Group start a venture arm and back entrepreneurs outside of the company instead of focusing on entrepreneurship or trying to incubate new ideas, new technology within the company itself?
Yeah, so we do that at the Heritage Group, and I know a number of corporations do that. They'll have kind of an internal incubation function that allows for that to happen, and we've done that here. But we do have a structure for external investing that's very purposeful, right? And it is external investing in addition to the internal incubation. We have a lot of really great ideas internally that we've developed over time, and we believe could be the basis in some cases for a new business. Some cases it's an innovation that you kind of tack on to an existing business, right? So it doesn't necessarily get the visibility you might see from a spin out, right, or a new company that's incubated. But investing externally is something that I think it is a huge benefit for any large company. Part of it is the simple interaction between the entrepreneurs and the people in your business, right? And it's simply the conversations they have around maybe doing something a little differently, thinking about innovation, right? Getting excited about innovation, stepping away from the day to day and seeing someone else's view on, hey, maybe you could do this a little bit differently. Maybe you could use this to help you. That is a little bit of a cultural shift, right? Which is very, very hard in a large company because there's plenty of things for the people here to do, and they do it really well, and they serve their clients really well, and they innovate for their clients. But more transformational step change, I think, for the most part, comes from people who are looking to build new things, like entrepreneurs, and that kind of interaction is something I think it's underrated, right, when it comes to corporate venture. When we go through our process, both in terms of diligence on a company and when we're supporting our portfolio, we actively look to make those connections between the people in the Heritage Group and the people in our portfolio. We look for the win-win partnerships, right? So we're not looking for anything one-sided. We want any relationship, commercial business relationship, to be a win-win, but simply getting them talking to each other, we've heard, has tremendous value.
So that makes a ton of sense to me, that the benefits for the corporation itself and for the entrepreneurs to benefit from the expertise and the insights that you're able to bring and really add value to them. So what are some of the things that you see from the entrepreneurs you work with at HG Ventures that they do in order to get the most of what you're able to offer them?
Well, and this is something I think the good entrepreneurs do with us and with other investors also, is they're very careful about doing their own diligence, right? We talk about investors doing diligence on companies. Well, companies should be doing their diligence on us, and I don't see that enough. I think there needs to be an effort put into what does this investor mean for us and for our company? And then once you establish that understanding on what that value could be, then set the expectations and be explicit about that. Don't just assume that, yeah, I think you'll be a good board member. I think you'll add value in these ways, but actually be explicit about it, right? When we walk into a board meeting, we'll typically set expectations with the management team. Here are the milestones for the year. Here's our long-term plan. Here's what we expect out of each position, and certainly from the CEO. Well, what about the other way around? Okay, what are my expectations of the board members? What are the investors expected to do? Now, of course, we can't always make promises that we're going to generate new customers for you, or help you develop something, but certainly the effort that is required, right, is stepping up and adding value wherever you can. And in certain ways, for us, we can be a little bit more explicit about where we're going to try to help you, how we're going to try to help you, because we know the markets that we are in so well. But be explicit about it.
I think that's such an important point that you're right. Not enough entrepreneurs do. They really should be diligencing their potential investors heavily as well. This is a partnership that's going to last a long time if it's done properly.
It is, and that's a good point you make about this, the long-term nature of these relationships. I think I see too often that both entrepreneurs and investors get very transactional about the fundraising process, right? And it really is a mistake. There's a lot of lessons I've learned about that interaction, especially in their early days, where you have to take the view. Good investors, I believe, will take the view of, I'm building. This is the first step in a long-term partnership, right? We need to get off on the right foot. We can't be in the mode of, look, I'm just looking for the best possible deal I can get for myself. That's not going to serve you well. And it's certainly not going to serve you well long-term, because the entrepreneurs talk to each other, right? And if you work your way through a deal and then you're looking for the next deal, you're looking for entrepreneurs that you want to back again, they're going to think about what it was like to work with you before. Did they take advantage of you? Were they a good partner to work with, right? They're going to take that all into account. So we think about that from day one. When companies walk in, and we're very explicit about that with our team, how we treat entrepreneurs when they walk in the door, right? When they walk in the door, we treat entrepreneurs with respect, right? We put in the time to understand what they're doing, and we show our appreciation for what they're doing from day one. It could be just one pitch. They might come in and pitch us one time. And what we don't treat them, unfortunately, like some investors do, like they're groveling for capital, right? That's not the way to start a relationship. So when we understand, like I said before, being in their shoes, we understand what they're going through, because when a company comes in to pitch us, it might be one of 3-4 pitches we're seeing that week. For the entrepreneur, it could be the most important pitch they're giving that year or that quarter, or at least that month, right? They're thinking this is go time, right? This is a really, really important hour and a half I'm going to spend with you guys. We need to appreciate that that's what they're going through. And what they're thinking to themselves is, okay, I've got a short period of time. I need to make sure these guys understand my vision. They make sure they understand what I'm trying to do. Because if we turn them down, the nightmare scenario for an entrepreneur is you get an investor that turns you down, and it's clear to you that they actually don't understand what you're doing. They don't understand what you're trying to do, right? That's the nightmare. If you turn a company down, like investors turn entrepreneurs down all the time. It's just a reality, right? We see hundreds of deals. We only do single digit number of deals per year. So that's the reality of the world we live in. But if you turn them down and say, look, I understand what you're trying to do. It's not a good fit for us, but here's the reason why we're passing. And by the way, here's some feedback. Here's some suggestions. Maybe here's some connections, right? And thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate what we're doing. We appreciate you need to make sure that you're building those relationships, even with the companies where you pass, because entrepreneurs are they're unfortunately in a world where they have a short period of time, right? And a lot of investors that don't take the time to truly understand what they're doing.
And I think that's incredible advice for investors listening to this as well, to give feedback to those entrepreneurs, to appreciate what the entrepreneurs are going through, and think about their long-term reputation and relationship with them. Because this is the other thing. Entrepreneurs who have an idea that doesn't work out this time probably aren't going to stop there. They have the chance to create another company with a better idea or a better team. And you want to build the relationship up so that they come back and talk to you again when they're on their next venture, or the venture after that you want to actually invest in.
And through success and failure, right? Because we've seen plenty of entrepreneurs that have failures behind them where they've learned a great deal. They're better for it. They're better entrepreneurs, and they build better companies.
For other investors listening, as you're working with entrepreneurs, you're doing diligence, what are some of the things that you found to be most important to think about, especially if it's anything beyond what we typically hear, to really look at the founding team, really look at the moat around them, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there's the checklist, right? And say people will say, yeah, the team is number one, and that's true. And there's plenty of other things that you can use to go through. There's a couple things that I learned early on, and this is actually one of the lessons I learned very early in my career, because in the first year I was with the venture fund I talked about in North Carolina. I remember the senior partner coming to me after a few months and saying, hey, John, you seem to hate everything. You don't like any of the deals that we're looking at. And so we sat down, we talked about kind of why that was the case. And I realized that, when you listen to an early stage company describe what they're doing, it's actually really easy to pick out the issues. I mean, think about it. I mean, these are early stage. There's a lot that hasn't been worked out yet. There's plenty of risk still on the table, right? And it's a little bit, I was really hard on myself because it was kind of intellectually lazy to just say, I'm just going to point out all the wrong things, all the things that could be bad, be issues, be problems, all the reasons why we shouldn't invest. It was easy to come up with. The hard thing to do, the thing that I have had to learn to do, and I think I've become a lot better at over the years, is how do you look for the potential in that business to be really great, right? How do you kind of paint the picture with the entrepreneur's help on how big, because they've got that vision in their mind, and you just need to try to understand that. And then you move on to those issues, and you have to ask yourself, okay, can that be solved? Can that risk be mitigated? Are there things that are deal killers that you think, no, we can't get over that? That's okay. But at least take that approach of, that's an issue that we need to solve. That's a challenge that we could maybe do an opportunity. And don't fall in the trap of just saying, you know what, there's an easy reason for me to pass on everything I see. Everything I see, I can give you a rationale that would make sense to pass, but push yourself to think beyond that. And what that will do is, first of all, I think you'll dial into the deals you should be dialed into, but it also aligns you with the entrepreneur, because now you're thinking the way they're thinking.
That is absolutely on point. Now I want to ask from the other side, especially since you were emphasizing the importance of entrepreneurs diligencing investors. What are some of the things that you think more entrepreneurs should be asking potential investors? What do you think they should be paying attention to in their diligence process?
Yeah, well, I think for the entrepreneurs on the front end, one of the mistakes I see them make is they start treating all investors the same, right? And this goes both ways, right? Investors need to understand that all entrepreneurs are different. And just really quick aside on that, we in our team on our diligence process, we have checklists that we'll reference, but I encourage my team not to use a checklist to drive their diligence. Why is that? Because every company's different, right? By their nature, they're trying to do something unique. And you're doing a disservice to yourself and the company by saying, I'm just going to kind of check off all the boxes, go through all the diligence. You need to think uniquely about what are they trying to do, right? And let your diligence take that into account, in addition to all the things that you're going to have to check off, right? So we look at every deal as a unique opportunity. Entrepreneurs, I believe, need to do the same thing. I don't want to see the same pitch deck you've shown everybody else, right? Because we believe we can add unique value. So let's talk about the unique value we can add. We come at it from a certain angle, in our case, with a lot of experience in the markets that you're in. So let's dig into that, right? Give me some of the things that you're seeing, and we'll match that up against what we're seeing. And now we can have a real conversation about, trends, the value proposition, the product market fit, how are you going to go to market in areas that we have a lot of experience. So make the conversation specific to that investor. Don't just assume that one pitch deck is going to be fine for everybody. You might just tweak it a little bit, but make it unique, and that'll stand out, right? If you have a slide that is specific to that investor, hey, here's where we see you guys coming from, especially if it's a corporate investor, right? Because we talked before about alignment. Well, where is that alignment? Let's get to that right away.
That is such a great hack that I haven't actually seen any entrepreneur do before. If just including one slide in there saying, here's where we see you adding unique value to what we're doing. And you're right, a great way to be remembered by the investor and start a conversation with them.
Yeah, and point out the things that they understand about you that they believe will be valuable, and then just say, look, is this? I mean, do you agree with this? Right? This is a little bit of a test, right? this is what we believe could be the source of the value in our relationship. What do you guys think about that? Because the good pitches are dialogues. The good pitches are dialogues. And I also see some entrepreneurs sometimes spend a lot of time on kind of making the pitch perfect. And I see even as an investor in existing companies and as a board member, there'll be so many iterations on the pitch deck. Like, let's get the pitch deck right. When I give my advice to entrepreneurs that are pitching, I tell them, look, I want to invest in good management teams and good CEOs, good entrepreneurs. My objective is not to invest in companies that write good pitch decks. Okay. That's nice to facilitate the conversation, but if there's anything you don't mention that we need to talk about, I'm going to ask you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Have an appendix with 100 slides so that we're ready to dive into things, but don't get too nervous about having the perfect pitch deck. Drive a dialogue. Ask us questions. Give us the opportunity to ask questions, right? Because writing a good business plan, writing a good pitch deck, I'm not sure how correlated that is to operating a business. I'm guessing that there's maybe a little bit of correlation, but we want to invest in people that run good businesses.
So I think that's a great place for us to wrap up here. But John, this has been so insightful. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up this conversation?
Just the fact that we're our door is open. I mentioned before, the Heritage Group has been built on partnership and working with people and finding win-win relationships, both with our operating businesses and with our portfolio. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested and maybe identifies with some of the things I've been talking about. If there are parts of the Heritage Group that you see that might be a source of partnership for you, please let us know. And then, of course, my portfolio of companies that I work with, I mentioned before, they're near and dear to my heart. I love these entrepreneurs. I love these CEOs and management teams. Please, if you see in our portfolio online, hgventures.com, if you see any companies in our portfolio where you have things that might help them, relationships, connections, even just suggestions for those companies, please let me know. We're always looking to add value and would love your help in doing that.
Fantastic. Really, John, thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and for everything that you're doing. This is really exciting.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It was fun.
And thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk with you soon.